How you doing, guys? Michael here. Today we're going to talk about what is it and why do we use it, specifically pertaining to the TGW narrow belt conveyor. It is a sorter. We would call it a belted sorter, as opposed to a roller sorter. We can get into some details about conveyor types, basic conveyor types in a different video, but we're just going to jump right in. A belted conveyor, specifically here a TGW narrow belt conveyor, shown here, highlighted in blue, is a conveyor that has strips of belts that run the full length of the conveyor and is driven by a 480 volt or 230 volt AC motor. It is a stripped belt. So imagine a wide belt, like the belt you have on around your waist. If you were to take that and the full length of it, cut it into strips and separate them, that is what a narrow belt sorter looks like. I pulled up a web page to kind of explain what that looks like. So if you look, there are small strips of belt to run the full length of the conveyor. The reason this type of sorter is used is because at higher speeds, it becomes hard to keep track of the location of a package moving down the conveyor. Well, on a sorter, it's important for us to be able to track specifically and to within about an inch the leading and or trailing edge of a package. So when it gets to a destination where it needs to go, we can kick it off of that sorter to that destination. Imagine driving down the highway and taking an off ramp. That would much be like this TGW narrow belt 30 conveyor, where you're driving down the conveyor as you see the box coming, and the box kicks off of the main road and goes on a tangent to a takeaway conveyor. This is a TGW narrow belt conveyor, and this specifically is a 30-degree conveyor. At high speeds, again, it becomes difficult to track the product down the conveyor. So if you look back where we were here, that product is being put on the conveyor all the way upstream. We have to track it down the conveyor to a specific point, and based on the destination where we're trying to route that package, we would pop up the diverts to divert it to that location. On rollers, you could do the same thing, but on a belt, you have to include an encoder. That encoder gives you positional feedback on the belt itself. So as the belts are moving, there's a wheeled encoder that is rotating. So as the belt goes over the wheeled encoder, it rotates, and as it rotates, it gives us an input. Based on that input, we positionally know how far the belt's traveled, and we can precisely track the product's position. On a roller conveyor, you cannot do that. Each roller is individually driven, and an individually driven roller can slip in an asynchronous fashion. It means its slippage may be different than the rollers right before or right after it, or in conveyors we call upstream or downstream. If that slippage occurs, it becomes extremely difficult to track the product. So, again, at high speeds, where tracking position is critically important, a belted sorter is typically used over a roller sorter. Before we go, I'll show you one more example of a stripped sorter. And this is very similar in the sense that it still has these strips of belt, but instead of the product going off on a 45-degree tangent or a 30-degree tangent, it goes off at a 90-degree tangent. Again, the reason to use a belted sorter is to increase the accuracy of you tracking the product, which allows you to move at a higher speed and therefore produce a higher rate of product through the system. Thanks, guys.